Hello, this is Paul the Oaken Knight, bringing you the fourth battle of the early morning of the first day of our campaign for Drive on Giessen. First, let's take a look at where we're at. We are the final battle farthest to the north. It's kind of a strange zone because once you get up here, you have no cross links between this and the other part of the battlefield. All these guys can do is go up this channel until they get all the way to here. So it kind of turns this area into its own little mini battlefield on the operational map. So what happens here doesn't have a lot to do with what happens elsewhere. But hey, let's see what happens. Both sides are light on ground forces in this scenario. We have quite a few aviation assets, but for ground units, we're skinnier than we've been in any other battle that we've seen. The Germans have on the ground. We have one German recon company, and that company is composed of, you see two Leopard 1s, we have a Luchs, we have a Jaguar, which is a missile unit, and a Gepard anti-air unit with the associated headquarters. And that is it for actual ground units for the Germans. They do have three helicopters, attack helicopters of their own make, a BO-105, and it does have missiles. So when it goes into hover mode, it does have missiles, but apparently it does not. It does not have a gun. It's just got its missiles. And a transport helicopter, which probably isn't going to do a whole lot. It has a kind of a junky gun, and that's about it. All right, and we have a Warthog. Always a good thing to have. For the Soviet side, we have a battalion of T-80s. That would be 10 of these. But that's it. That's all they have on the ground. They do have a fencer, and they do have 3 Hinds. And so we're kind of helicopter heavy and ground force light. That'll make this scenario a little bit different than what we've seen before. On to the map. Touring the battlefield from east to west, we see that we have a large town on the east map, which has also been designated an objective by the Soviets, as well as the bridge that is nearby. So most of the objectives are going to be on the east this time, and that's quite all right because the Germans do not intend to stick around here. The most salient point of this position is that it is simply wide open plain. There's not a single hill on the eastern map. It's all cultivated hexes with some road networks and a little bit of rough terrain, but that's about it. It is wide open, particularly if you are up on a hill on the west map, like each and every one of the main units that the West Germans have. We have a Leopard 1 here, another Leopard 1 up here, and we have the missile unit, the ATGM shooter, up here, also in an improved position to make him more survivable. The minefield is here. Remember, placed mines, the owning player can freely move through them without effect. So this minefield has no effect whatsoever on the Germans, but it will at least mine the road, make it ever so slightly tougher to get up the hill. Not much, but hey, there's really no good place to put a minefield on this map. The third objective is far to the west, with the German recon unit hiding in the trees. No sense in losing him. All right, let me roll for surprise. Let's see what's going on. The West Germans rolled a 4, the Soviets a 3. The West Germans get a +1 for the recon unit that's hiding in the trees. Outside of that, there's no other modifier. It's a 2 differential, not enough for a surprise. So we're going to have a very conventional game. Light on ground forces. All the helicopters come on turn 4 for both sides. And I didn't mention there's one off-board artillery unit that the Germans have this time. The Soviets do not have off-board artillery. All right, let me do some shuffling and we'll pick some cards. Okay, first card, end of operations. Nothing happens until I draw the second one. The German Recon Battalion, they do nothing, followed by the Soviet Armored Formation. That will do something. Soviet Armored Formation enters on the east, captures the 2 objectives that were way over to the east. No shots are fired. They're outside of normal range. There's no reason to start things at this point. So on to the next. Mr. Fencer. Mr. Fencer is unlucky enough to roll a 6, so the F-15s chase him away. He's out of the scenario. And I pulled a Scratch Force card, which is what I'm using for the German artillery, the off-board artillery unit. I think we're going to hold our fire. We only get 3 shots, so I don't think now's the time. Electronics warfare is pulled. Germans lose. Their headquarters is scrambled. And now we have the Warthog. All right, Mr. Warthog decides to go after the lead pair of tanks, and no marauding MiGs shush him away, so this attack is going to happen. Anti-aircraft fire actually scored a hit, but the thick skin of the Warthog, it just bounces off. Therefore, we were rolling 6 dice for 3s and rolled 5 hits with 2 successful defenses, so 3 hits are delivered. The top T-80 is destroyed. And finally, the A-10 has sufficient ammo to come around for another pass in possibly next turn. The second end of operations card is pulled, so turn 1 is over. All right, the first card is electronic warfare, and the Soviets win it with their +1 bonus scenario rule for turn 1. But there's already an EW on the Germans, so there's nowhere to put it. Second card. And it's Mr. Warthog once again, so let's see what he wants to do. Okay, the Warthog is not driven off by enemy air activity, no effective anti-aircraft, and all right, there was no marauding MiG to shush this guy away, so we proceed with the attack. There was no effective anti-aircraft fire. Therefore, the attack proceeds. We had 5 hits and 1 successful defense. The top T-80 is no more, and the lower one is disrupted. And finally, the Soviet headquarters was reduced and remains in place. Should it happen again, it will have to be taken off map for a turn or 2. But this time, it just flips, and its effectiveness is reduced. So we've already lost, what? 20% of the Soviet tank force, and we've just put a toe on the map. This is going to be a tough one. We'll see what happens. The only good news is that the Warthog has used up its ammunition, so it is retired from the scenario. Honestly, if that hadn't happened, I think the Soviets would be the one that would be retiring. All right, so I think we can push this a little bit farther in this Soviet armored formation. The lead T-80 pokes his nose out of the wreck hex and advances 1. The Germans, the Leopard, and the missile units decide not to shoot at this range. This would be at extreme range for them. The T-80 stops his movement at range 12 from the Leopard because that is his normal range. He has superior range. And he feels like, at least this turn, there's no reason to close range to the effective range of the opposing Leopard. So he's going to stop there, and he's going to take his shot. So we have a T-80 shooting at a Leopard. The defending Leopard 1, it's shooting 3 dice for 6 with 1 bonus die for being on the hilltop. The opposing T-80, the shooters, normally get 3 dice, but because they moved, they lost a die, and they're shooting for 3s. And we have 1 hit and no successful defenses, so the Leopard is disrupted. And now we continue with the T-80 movement. The second group of T-80s goes around through the woods, comes out this way to get a range 12 shot at that Leopard, and not wanting to let that Leopard turn into a pincushion unopposed, we're going to take a long-range shot from the other T-80 up on the hilltop. So he is going to be firing at extreme range. That's going to be shooting for 6s, 4 dice, and we're defending with shooting for 5s on 4 dice. One success on each side means that nothing happens. The T-80s open fire. On the Soviet side, we are shooting for 3s. Per the normal effect of the gun. Normally they get 3 dice, they lose 1 for movement, but they get 1 back because we have 2 T-80 units stacked doing volley fire. So it's going to be 3 dice for 3s. On defense, we normally would get 3 dice, but we're on a hill, we get 4, shooting for 6s, which is normal for the Leopard 1. Both sides do well. The T-80s score 3 hits. Out of the 4 dice for the Leopard, 2 are successful defenses, so we go disrupted, no permanent hits. Oh, but however, the unit is already disrupted, so it takes 1 hit. And there you go. All right, we have the headquarters unit along with one T-80. We're going to be moving 1, 2, 3. Stacking prevents these two from moving together. And he normally shoots 3. He loses 1 for moving, but the headquarters gives him 1 back. So it's kind of the same shot as before, shooting for 3s with 4 dice on defense, shooting for 6s. 1 more hit is going to eliminate the Leopard 1. There were 2 hits for the T-80 and no successful defenses. The Leopard 1 is eliminated. Boom, boom, boom. And the remaining T-80s do an all-out move with no further shots taken. And we pick end of ops card 1, followed by the German off-board artillery. Okay, we are going to opt for artillery-delivered minefield. It landed on target. You get to place 3 of them as long as they touch each other in any way. It's good. We didn't need a spotter because our headquarters unit up here has no problem seeing over here. So spotting was automatic. One thing I did wrong, and it was pointed out by a viewer in an earlier scenario, is that when you have hits in certain types of terrain, such as town, that have at least 3 hits, 3 effective hits, a fire should be started. So we should have a fire in this hex. I didn't do it. I will try to actually remember it next time. So for now, we'll just say the fire didn't catch. That was when the A-10 rolled in and did its damage. But okay, I made one mistake. Alrighty, we have artillery deliver minefields. What does this mean? It means that each and every unit in each and every one of these hexes rolls a die. On a 1, 2, 3, no hits. 4, 5, 1 hit. On a 6, 2 hits. So we could have some crunchy T-80s here in a minute. Let me roll some dice. All right, the minefield was devastatingly effective. In each hex, 1 unit died. In each hex, 1 unit took 1 step. So we have a wreck. We have a half-strength T-80 in each one of these hexes. In addition, the headquarters unit was suppressed and taken off map until it has a chance to recover in a future turn. So with that, I would say this scenario is done. The Soviets have taken 2 objectives. They're simply going to fall back in the weeds and not pursue this further. I'd say the helicopters are irrelevant because there's no ground force left to take the ground that's going to be effective. The tanks have taken over 50% hits, probably like 60% hits. There's not a lot left. So with that, we're going to say this one is certainly a NATO victory. But they don't want this place. The Soviets have taken 2 objectives. The West Germans have the option to pull out or call an engagement. They're going to move out. They're going to pull back. And like everybody else up and down the line, they're going to yield one territory on the operational map over here. And so these guys are going to pull back to there. And the Soviets are going to maintain their position where they're at. That ends the early AM turn. So what I'm going to do, the question is of how am I going to handle replacements? The rules are a little ambiguous because in one spot it's in the normal sequence of play. There's no qualifier saying that it is a night activity. In another section of the rule book, they say it's a night activity. So in the case of ambiguity, you can derive anything you want. And so what I'm going to derive is that I'm going to do replacements every turn. And I'm doing that for the following reason. If you don't do replacements every turn, you saw what happened to this tank unit. I think you could have a whole bunch of real skinny units really fast. So the only way around that is if you're going to have a lot of formations. You're going to have if you're very heavy on formations, if one gets decimated, you just have the next one come in. Okay, that's not what I'm doing because more formations means more cards, more things on the map, longer scenarios. I think we've got just about what we need. So to avoid having future turns have very few ground units, I'm going to go ahead and apply replacements every single turn. The rules provide for two ways to go when we're doing replacements. One is that the units do not control the battlefield location. That would be like an engagement where both sides are there at the end of the battle. Or they control the battlefield location. That's not what I'm going to do. Since I'm going to be doing this each and every turn, not just at night, when a unit has not been in combat, when a formation has not been in combat, that particular operational turn, it's going to use the control the battlefield line. When it has been in combat that particular turn, it's going to roll on the does not control battlefield formation. So I'm going to go to my record of casualties, which I have not yet updated for this particular scenario, but I will shortly. And I'm going to roll for each and every one of these to see if any recovery has been made and whether it is a 1 or a 2-step recovery. And that will be the starting point for the late morning operational turns. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I don't think I really need to talk about that too much. So this is Paul, the Oaken Knight, and wishing you a pleasant evening. And oh, by the way, if you haven't already done so, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button. It makes me feel good that to see that guys care enough to do that. All righty, guys. Thank you so very much. Take care.